and this is our Meet the Globe project.
Szeged is a city situated in the south of Hungary. The river Tisza crosses the city and is the second most important river in Hungary. The most important one is the Danube, situated in the capital city of Hungary, that is Budapest.
Okay, so we have chosen Szeged because in this university all the classes are taught in English, and considering that we are studying a degree in English, we find it interesting. In addition, it's a centered country in Europe, so it's easy to travel to different places. So if you're thinking to travel and study in English, Szeged is your destination.
Another reason why we have chosen Szeged is because it's the city of sun. And now,
We will show you.
Sunny. Well, Szeged is characterized by extreme weathers. It's the city of sun, but in winter there is extreme cold, and in summer it's very sunny and hot temperatures. Yeah. To investigate how is Szeged after the Great Flood of 1879.
to discover the importance of the flood as a sign of Szeged.
To know how important is the flood monument for the citizens compared with other sculptures.
To discover new fields in which the flood is a relevant element.
To discover if the climate has been the major agent to cause the great
Drifting through the city of Szeged, and we noticed that it was divided into two parts, the new part and the old part. To search for answers, we interviewed a historian, and then we expanded our bibliographic research to the public library Somogy. We discovered that the priest of Esztergom gave his valuable collection of books to the city in order to contribute to the moral reconstruction of the city, which had been devastated by the flood. By making a second drift, we saw that Szeged was a modern city compared to the capital, Budapest. The present image of Szeged is defined by the constructions after the Great Flood in 1879, which took place in the spirit of Art Nouveau, and as a result, Szeged has become a city of palaces. The upper middle class luxury mansions reveal their interior magnificence, with colorful glass windows. Here are some of the outstanding masterpieces. Undoubtedly, the Reok Palace is one of the most outstanding Art Nouveau buildings, not only in Szeged but also in Hungary. It's one of the most beautiful examples of Art Nouveau architecture. Nowadays, it's a bakery. The Angermeyer Palace is located at the crossing of Karaj Utka and Dukonic Stair. It was also designed by Ed Meyer in late Art Nouveau style. At the time of its construction, it was the second tallest building in Szeged. It was restored in 2000 to enhance the magnificence of the city center.
After having observed the urbanism more closely, we have noticed that another characteristic fact is the abundance of sculptures in the city of Szeged, especially one that has been the backbone of our project, the Memorial Flood, which was built in memory of the 1879 flood to commemorate its 100 years. The Great Flood of Szeged in 1879 was the most dramatic tragedy the town had to suffer since the era of the Ottoman rule in the region. On March 12 of 1879, the water of River Tisza suddenly covered almost the whole town, leaving no time for the inhabitants to rescue their goods. Only the oldest part of Szeged managed to avoid the flood as it was located high enough. About 151 people died, and 6,000 people became homeless. The huge destruction has been immortalized by some photographs, paintings, and also literary works. Franz Joseph I of Austria went to visit Szeged already on March 17 of 1879. He promised to help the town. Indeed, Austria was the country that gave the biggest support, but offerings have arrived from the several parts of the world. Germany, Russia, Romania, Serbia, Turkey, China, Japan, India, and France were among the countries that supported Szeged. Donations have also arrived from America and Africa, contributing to the reconstruction of the town. This unprecedented collaboration is represented by the Great Flood Memorial, the capitals of the countries that offered the help.
In 1879, 95% of the area of Szeged was underwater. There were 5,750 houses and 265 remained habitable in the inner city area. The number of inhabitants was about 68,000. About 300 died in the flood, and 60,000 became homeless. There was such damage that there were plans and they would not rebuild Szeged in the original place. But luckily, it was changed and the reconstruction took place.
It was Vásárhelyi who designed the regulation of the Tisza River, because after the flood, they decided to regulate the riverbed and to make it safer to prevent future floods. And it was Vásárhelyi who led the work, and he designed the regulation of the Tisza River. And at his statue, we can see the water level of 1879.
Thanks to the questionnaires, we have also noticed that many of the sculptures recognized as important by the citizens are related to the flood. Most of these recognized statues are found in Setony Square. Among these, we find the statue of La Giustizia, a work of art from 1903. The sculptor was a famous artist, Janus Fadrus. After the great flood of Szeged in 1879, it was La Giustizia who supervised the reconstruction of the city. Next, we can see the statue of Paul Barseghli, an engineer whose designs were used when regulating the riverbed of the Tisza River. These monumental works have made the formerly dangerous river navigable and safe for the people and the citizens. The monument itself goes back to 1905, and it is a work of art by the sculptor Lajos Matrai. On the pedestal, the record water levels are marked, including that of the Great Flood of 1879. There is a monumental allegorical work of art in front of Szeged City Hall, a work by Janos Pastor from 1930. It represents the Tisza River that brought both the construction and blessing to the city of Szeged. The allegorical male and female figures of the monument were taken from Greek mythology.
And I remember that it was in June, exam period, yes, my first exam period actually in Szeged, and we were not allowed to take our exam because everybody had to work, yes. I remember we, the students, we carried tea and food and everything for the workers who work day and night, yes. And then in June, sometime in June, we were even sent home to our hometowns because those people who had been evacuated, they needed our dorm. So we could not take our exams, so the whole exam period was postponed, and we took our exams only in September when we returned for the next academic year. Paul Vásárhelyi did a good job when he regulated the riverbed, because in 1970 the river was much higher than in.
In order to discover what was known Szeged for, we opt to choose for doing a questionnaire, and it's known for being the city of the sun. But this last part has been a conflict, considering that it has been difficult to find primary sources where it is explained if the climate has directly influenced the flood. After investigating, we have discovered that compared to the 19th century city, the inhabited parts of Szeged were situated on lower-lying terrains. For this reason, particularly during periods of colder and wetter climate, the Tisza floods coming from the north inundated the entire area of the later city. The flood covered the low floodplain and the low-lying basins to be filled with water, thus creating an actual sea around the city with several kilometers of diameter. But actually, with the hand of global warming, the climate of this city is characterized by a gradual warming, and it's coming drier and drier, fact which has led to a great deal of reduced flood risk. In addition, the development of the technology and engineering works has contributed to stop the fear of the citizens regarding the flood.
One was that the water flooded the city of Szeged at 2 a.m. when everybody was asleep. Yes? 2 a.m. It was night. So that's when the big waters came. The second dangerous fact about the flood at Szeged was that the waters did not come directly from the river, but they came from the back of Szeged. With the help of the financial help of the European Union, they are modernizing the system of the embankment. You might see that new embankment has been made by the riverside. The weather is changing. So there is this global warming. Unfortunately, we have less and less rain. But you never know. Yeah. You never know because the weather is so unpredictable. And also there is one more danger that near Szeged, a little bit north of Szeged, another river meets the Tisza River, the Maros. The Maros comes from Romania.
Oh yes, it's true.
Yeah, you know it, and sometimes the Maros brings also high waters. It can also bring high waters, and it comes into the river, into our river, exactly here. So also we have to protect Szeged from the high waters of the Maros River as well.
The huge destruction has been immortalized by some photographs, literary works, and also paintings, such as the one of Bagopal.
We realize that nowadays, the new part of Szeged is where the citizens make their lives. As you can see in the following maps, most of the important buildings are there. And finally, thanks to the questionnaire, we discovered that despite the importance of the Great Flood, the representative fact of Szeged for most of the citizens is the amount of hours of sun they have in the city, and the open-air festivals that take place there.
In short, Szeged has managed to move forward the difficulties so as to become a full-of-life city and third most important one in Hungary. That's why we recommend to do the Erasmus there. We would like to add that we have been able to research on areas such as history, architecture, urbanism, demography, meteorology, and art.
Even though we are not the first students of the University of Lleida to study there, that's why we know that more students are going to come. So taking into account the field in which we have investigated, we have perceived that there are a lot of relevant topics in which they can investigate about, such as the intercultural policy, considering that there is a low immigration rate in Hungary. Or continuing our research, you can inquire into the relationship between the flood and the music, because in Hungary there is a lot of musicians as Franz Liszt, Kodassi.